Good evening. Should I start?
Yes, you can start.
All right. Thanks for coming. I'm Laurent Jeanneau, someone who started to travel in the early 90s. And by traveling, I realized that on the spot, there was still so much music that could be recorded that I'd never heard before. So it took me a while to purchase the right equipment and to be able to do recording by myself in the area that I was visiting and gradually stayed there a longer time. So I arrived in Cambodia in 2003. Maybe as an introduction I should say, we're living in a time where politically correctness is the new moral, and I find it quite stupid where people who don't really care about the music tell me it's so great what you're doing, you're preserving this culture. I don't have the power to preserve any culture. I just happen to be there, the right time, the right place to do recordings. But it is not in the name of preservation, in the name of a moral issue. I don't believe in good intentions. Do you think a politician want to be a politician because he wants to save the country? No. And I'm not better than a politician. I'm doing it because it's my own way to get a certain power out of my life, to be someone who is doing what he likes to do. And that's the main motivation. And what I like to do is to find this music that is considered primitive, and I accept those adjectives. Primitive music is something that really interests me, because in the primitive music, like among so-called primitive people, you have exactly the same emotion that you and me and any kind of people can have access to and get pleasure out of it. So the main motivation for me, it's really to find instruments, to find vocal techniques that are special, that are not very sophisticated, but that have something very special, something very unique that is the result of a certain historical development. And this is where they are now in the 21st century when I was recording these people. So tonight we're focusing on what I call autobiographic woman song. It could have been also autobiographic men song, they also exist, but I tend to record more women than men. And once again, it's purely subjective, it's my own choice. I am much more touched by women's voice than by men's voice. So I'm maybe by maybe being more demanding towards the female members of a village. I'm getting more result with them than with men, but there's a lot of other information that are being transmitted through songs of men. But somehow I recorded mostly women in this category that I've formalized tonight, that I call autobiographic songs. I discovered accidentally that when I recorded someone who was following the traditional pattern. There's a pattern in each community that identify you as such, and within this pattern you have the ability to improvise, to change the words, to be to improvise and to have all the freedom to say what you want to say. So when I first recorded one woman one day, that was in northern Vietnam, I asked her, yeah, that's really beautiful, can you do a second one? And she's like, no, I have only one song, it's a song of my life. I don't know any other songs. So I start to question myself and realize that this happened in a lot of other areas where women were not necessarily, nobody is a professional Nobody's a professional musician or professional singer. That doesn't exist. I mean, in recent years, maybe a woman who is more beautiful or who has a very special voice might have been doing a few VCDs for the local markets and so on, but it's just accidental like that, and she's not going to continue doing it as a main income. Everybody was a victim of the Khmer Rouge. Only the few leaders were leading this terrible madness, and everybody else has been a victim. And in Cambodia, it's a common cliché that a lot of ethnic minority from Ratanakiri and Mondulkiri province were involved in the Khmer Rouge. And I must say that according to my experience, a lot of Krang people I've been in contact with, and that was the case in the first recording we're going to listen soon, getting drunk with them and recording some music, there were quite a few men who were very proud of telling me that they were Khmer Rouge leaders in their communities. And just telling me that being 15 years old and having a big Kalashnikov and conducting 20 men was the best time of their life. So something that, the kind of comment that no anthropologists want to hear and want to qualify everybody as a victim. And well, we're going to listen to Khmer Rouge song in Krang language. Sorry. This Tampung guy has been working for an NGO. In between, he can speak good English, so he was my translator from the beginning in 2003 when I met him. But now he was able to explain so much more. And at the end of the first song I recorded in 2012, I'm like, well, nothing has changed. The music is the same. And he told me, yes, because you don't understand the words. They were just simple, joking, loving song in 2003. Now it's exactly the same pattern. So it sounds the same for somebody who doesn't understand the words, but the words are radically changed. The words now of this song we're going to listen to in December 2012, the word is like, basically, we've been fucked by everybody. What should we do? Take back the guns from the time of the Khmer Rouge. So some people are desperate enough in Cambodia to imagine that a possible return to the Khmer Rouge would bring more justice or whatever. I mean, would at least totally destroy the gap between the rich and poor, because they will be only poor at the end. Anyway. So this is this lady who still has a soft voice, and her husband is playing the ganteng, the 10-string instrument. but this time it's a radical message.
Em ra nào? Em ra đi nào cũng chạy được bên trước.
So she's here. You can see they're doing cassava, which is a kind of manioc for the root. That's going to be sold like 1 cent a kilo or something. And you see the rubber plantation in the background. But the rubber plantation needs 5 years to be producing some juice. So for the first 5 years, they have to survive on cassava.
Mấy anh con nó có giật lời lần chẳng nhau mấy bài nhà ca sao mà mấy bánh cà phê là mấy bánh cà phê mấy bánh đó ra tầm khen mà bánh đó bên đó mày mấy mà bánh bán tay trần mở tít lắm tay thằng quê mở tít đắm chơi thằng mà mấy mở tít lá cà trong cà sung để tạm gắn hạ mày mư anh cứ cắm non xanh giường mấy mượn bình chấm cờ chân kha nào chấm kha mày làm ăn cơ cho mình mấy để lên chấm kha lên cha tự nào chấm hơn lọt tè chạy phá các lính cam tâm mìn mấy anh cần phải giật lời lời chẳng nhau mấy bánh nhà ca sao mà mấy bánh cà phê là mấy bánh cà phê mà bánh nhà ca tăng thân mà bánh ra bên đó mày mấy mà bánh bán tay trầm lưu mà vì nắng ta đàn vui mà vì tâm chưa tan mà mấy mà vì lá cà cho bà sâu.
Dying, children left, and she's a single woman. Sung in the pattern of the flower mound.
ơi tràn thế plom yong sa ít ngọ thì hàn Zarum ilep krong ilem sao khát năng xin nam bờ yong sao ram pang pang ka bon ne sa chủ quân cùng ý ơi là em bờ lam sa chủ quân càng ý ơi là em sẽ là mình sa sân mình cơ bảo vàng sa răng pa chữ ơi sân mình cơ bảo vàng sa răng pa cơ bà chèn ơi chủ quân cung lang yết ơi sa mình bị rộn tông sao chủ buồn cũng lo ya tơ sa mất mong rom hắn tụ này sa tâm này thải cái bỏ sa se bài la sa sembrat mati cái sa se bài la sa sembrat mati kun cháu.
We're staying in Laos for the two last tracks, but further south, on an area that was something that a lot of you probably have heard, the name of the Ho Chi Minh Trails. So basically, because Vietnam was divided in two around here, basically for the communists from the north to infiltrate the south, they just went through Laos and Cambodia. So the Americans didn't care. They just bombed all the area along the border in Laos and Cambodia, which was the homeland of all those ethnic minority people who nobody even knew who they were. And big powers in the past or in the present still don't care. Okay, the next track is Katu.
Sorry to disturb you.
Yeah,
the
please.
one that we just hear does is something that usually it's without instruments or also with instruments. The last song.
The last song.
Last track.
No, this technique, this singing technique of thumb, I've got lots of recording as much for men and women. It's always one person and always strictly vocal.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see they wrote actually Katu here, so they're on both sides of the border. And when we talk about all this population and the story of the Vietnam War, it's not that simple. Somewhere with the American, somewhere with the Vietnamese, somewhere trying not to be involved with any of those, but more difficult situation. And so I've got, from the recording I've done with these people, I've got different stories. The one who were with the American, the one who were with the Vietnamese, and nowadays they live in the same village. You know, it didn't make much of a difference to be on one side or the other. Okay, Katu. Also, it's also a song about the hard life during the Vietnam War, escaping the bomb and the fights and trying to hide in the jungle. And that lady who performed that song, well, you know, money has always been an important issue, so Vietnamese communists, as much as the American, were shaking some money in front of those people to have them on their side, and this money, most of the time, they've never seen it. So this Katu lady sing that song, which is full of like Vietnamese propaganda in a way, but at the end of the song she's telling you, I got fucked anyway, they never pay me the money they were supposed to give me. So it's funny to another detail. So same thing, if you hear that, you know it's a Katu song. The style is very obvious.
Văn ơi hạt bạc lúc nhát cười khung đòn phương con ơi cắt xe cắm mò ơi trời trần nụ con số ơi con ai cháu ơi cháu ơi cháu ơi đinh ơi về cho cha ơi đẹp cho cha ơi ta bà cháu ơi mày em ơi ai chạy cắt ta xe cháu ơi anh đang sông ơi đinh sập hè đồng độ ơi đồng lệ bật ắt ơi là lỗ ơi đã dạ rồi ơi cả chết ngày nữa bé nữa hay mà lê căn là hay bà đai ơi sông hạp cho lắp ơi phê xin đồng em ơi đang châu sập ơi đồng tiệp đang lốt nơ ta bịch và họ nâng lên chẳng ơi cả đẹp đang say dự ơi ô nhiễm dự ẩu rèn nơ bé nơ dự số ơi bật lên quỳnh cái căn nơ bé nơ hơi bạc châu ơi bạc ya thế phân nạc cái con phân nạc cả lùng nơแต่ไม่ตึกเป็นตะกุบอลทุสอีกคนยี่กันพูดเช็ดกะแวกากากะแวงาการุบันเพลงเราแต่ทุกแต่ไปอีกคนจิตให้ยังไปให้ต้องตมูอีกคนยี่กันดักบวชกะลัดปาร์โซให้ตรวจมาให้บนทุสมันกะแวยังให้จ่าให้โดยปนาประราม
So they're having a discussion at the end of like, hey, you're romanticizing, romanticizing the story, and the woman say, yeah, the song is like that. Kind of thing. Anyway, before I mention the story of war and money, I've met some Camus man who was working for the American and had all this money, and by 1975 where obviously the American lost and the Vietnamese took over, he had all these dollars, but you could not show those dollars at that time. You were a traitor. Therefore he keep them, he hide them, but he hide them 15 years in a box in a hole that he make. And the day was like, okay, early 90s where the Soviet Union was finished, and finally it was like, okay, this is time for money now, forget about the hardcore communism. And he went to look for his dollars, and they were all eaten by animals. So he just waited too long. The last track is from a Paco woman. So the Paco are also written on that map. Yeah, here they're a little bit further north from the Katu. Taoi, Katu, Paco, it's musically very connected. They have slightly different languages, but on both sides of the border, I mean, for the people here in the audience who were there for the first show I did in October, it was on the gongs of southern Laos and northeast Cambodia. And then the gongs extend themselves here to the central plateau. So this is the zone for the gongs, and if you move further from that, you might have one gong as part of an orchestra, but the orchestra of only gongs, it's impossible. So you start to have the katu, taoi, pako, you have moss organ. But here for those songs where people tell their life, the content is extremely important. For me, it's the opposite, because I mean, so many times people approach me telling me, what do you find interesting in there? You don't understand the words. And precisely in my case, this is exactly what interests me. I am not an ethnomusicologist. I'm not someone who wants to know everything. Tonight I'm pretending to know everything and to tell you a little bit what I've recorded, but my primary interest in this music and in those songs is specifically because I don't understand the words. And I've been willing all my life to be in an environment where I can just perceive human voice as a music instrument and not as a machine that has a message. So they have a message for themselves, but for myself, I have another point of view. I am not one of them. I'm someone who likes this for the very basic reason that I don't understand it.
Question?
I have a question if you want.
Yeah. Did you ever try to make subtitles to those?
Subtitles. Well, there's very few cases where I was able to have someone reliable that I could translate, do a really good job and translate word for word. And yeah, I have a few examples here and there in different countries, but this is not my primary intention. And so if I have someone who is there willing to translate things for me, I'm really happy about it. But as I said, it's not the essential for me. Essential for me is to hear people who sing. I mean, okay, if we make two very, I know it's very simplistic, but if we make two categories of like how people sing, you have what we hear right now, what I rather call flat singing. It's not, it doesn't have, it's the opposite of opera, or it's the opposite of
Celine Dion.
exactly, the perfect example. This is the opposite of Celine Dion. Of all this pseudo-soul bullshit that I can't stand. I mean, as soon as somebody is trying to sing and over-impress me with like doing too much of it, I'm switched off. There's something I can't take, and so, I mean, soul music is a fantastic style, but the derivative, what comes out of the real soul culture and what is now being produced as soul, it's ridiculous to me. Let's not even mention garage, techno with a pseudo adding of like this kind of songs. This is something that totally switched me off. I want this kind of very, very low-key, very ordinary songs that to me produce much more emotion than the person who is trying to overdo it. The person who is trying to overdo it, as much on a vocal point of view, as much as an instrumental point of view, is something that I'm like, I'm suspicious kind of thing. I want something that is raw, that has a primary emotion that I can relate to. That's all I'm talking about. What I can relate to.
Something that is not art. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. In my opinion. Anything that's like art or feels like art is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And those people, I mean, Yeah, the word is being used, but it's a recent development. Like in Cambodia, you use the word selapat, which means artist in Khmer, but that's very recent. And the selapat, the artist way of doing things is actually overdo it, and it is very obvious in areas in Southeast Asia where ethnic tourism has already started, where you have the government behind, or an NGO behind, or even whatever behind, all kind of people behind, with the intention of trying to modernize it and to bring something, a way of singing that would be more acceptable to the masses. And acceptable to the masses nowadays means something that has received Western influence. And it's usually the worst kind of Western influence. They haven't listened to Meredith Monk or Johanna Barbara or the great singer that motivate me in the world of experimental music. No, it's more like Céline Dion, Madonna, and all the others you can think about. I don't even want to name them. Okay, let's go back to a woman who with handicapped, who you can see she's having difficulty to walk because she blew on a bomb when she was a child. And her story, she's a Paco, from the ethnic group of the Pacos. They're on both sides of the border. Paco here on both sides of the border, Vietnam and Laos. So this is recorded in Laos, but 10 kilometers away from the Vietnamese border. And this woman, she's in her 30s and singing about her life. So she blew on a bomb when she was like 10 years old, lost her father later on, survived with her mother, and being handicapped, she suffered of never having a husband and having to deal with hard life as the consequences of the war. I don't have a photo of her, so I've put, it's in the same area. It's a Taoist woman who come to the coffee shop of my friend, the Australian guy who's been living 12 years in this part of southern Laos, and was my translator and took me to the Katu woman we've just heard, and to the Paco woman who I don't have a photo, but I show you a photo of this lady because after all the story I've told you about the Vietnam War, after having received so many American bombs, some people still wear t-shirts given by American missionaries. So that's not her.
Ima bato ama tati ibu naya miang balu la canh cam môi chú rồi cả miang ơi anh cả dư dâu rồi cái tất chân mà ăn lấy cái naya miang bắt lấy đó bắt ăn mà bắt từ là chói phân tươi bây mà tu rồi cả miang ơi hả mi tèn là dâu ơi mỗi ơi em ơi in bật ơi nó bắt bếp cả bây mà cái lư cái tam phong tu ơi từ dầu ơi trời ơi có chú làm mà ăn lừa miệng tất tị ăn bằng thì bự bây giờ tất chúc bôi lừa bây mà cái liều đó bắt mà thực luôn tụi anh đó bôi ơi cả em mà để áo tôi ôi từ dầu ơi mỗi ơi miệng ơi ba chuột rung mà đó mà tư liệu tấm hàng tu lúc cân thà tu hơi cả miệng người mi tè từ dấu ơi khi mà nhung ama ăn đó ba ama cứ bằng ăn đây bay kia tí người bám dài tu hơi cả miệng người mi tè từ dấu ơi khi mà bắt đầu ama ăn đó ba ama cái lừa với thời cái lại bật lại mà tu lừa đó ama đi ơi cả miệng người mi tè từ dấu ơi ama badai kinin ma bung lu tera baklam truat bay ama tang bang dam trap di oi ke jawa ya mi teng lu kai zo amoy oi em ơi ma kinin ka chu kang ya tera baklam trap baklam chong noi em bay ama tak cho con nam tam dieng di oi ke jawa ta ka ka mieng ơi tuôn chạy lử thưa em ơi đàn em ơi nước mi bơ lử chẳng sao em nước lao bơ lử chẳng chiêm nước dâu gió trong gió nước nam nhung tê ai bà tâm nữa em nói lười nó nước dâu những chiều bơ lử chả hà chiêng em mà mồi ơi trái này nước dâu đang mà lử đang rất.
I've got 148 CDs in my collection,
Yeah.
and each CD has got at least one story.
Yeah.
To answer your question, so every CD, every story, every location, every recording I've done has a different story. If it's for in the frame of rituals, for example, the ritual of gongs, I can only be there doing recording when they're having a ceremony. I cannot just come and say, okay, here you 5 guys playing gongs, how much does it cost, when can we do it? No, they will refuse. They can do it only, so for the ritual it's much more complicated.
Yeah.
For all those songs that we've heard tonight, okay, it was certain songs were recorded, like let's call it in situation. In situation means, okay, the third track was those 3 sisters, black monk sisters. Their mother truly died 2 days before when I arrived, and I knew them, and I was instantly in the intimacy to be doing recording of these sad songs. Some songs I just arrive and I'm like, I've been directed to your house, I'm coming, people say you're a good singer. I mean, every CD has a different story.
Yeah, actually, it's not how you acquire them. It's actually how, like these functions in these communities, like why they sing these songs for which purpose, I can ask. Not how you get them or how you record them.
Yeah, as I said, I distance myself from the purpose because I am someone who is interested in the aesthetic of it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the purpose or the message.
Yeah.
But in their case, absolutely, the situation, the context, the message are the most important things for them. But you know, it's like clothes.
Yeah.
Clothes as the purpose to cover you, so you're not naked, so and to protect you from the cold, whatever. But as also a certain aesthetic that define your identity. So it's the same with the songs. The songs as a purpose, but as also a certain aesthetic. So I am trying to present you both.